I'm Mickey Lemley, and I have the great honor and privilege of serving as chairman of the board of the Tibet Fund. The Tibet Fund has, for 28 years, looked after issues of cultural preservation and humanitarian efforts in the Tibetan community, both in exile and inside Tibet. And we're thrilled to be able to organize this event this morning. And it promises to be quite interesting, I think. We're going to look at what has happened to the Tibetan culture in exile and how it has affected the host countries where we're lucky enough to have Tibetans amongst us and what they have taught us over the years. I have the privilege of introducing my friend Pico Iyer, who will be moderating the dialogue today. Pico is an extraordinary writer. He's written 9 books. The first one, his first book was called Video Nights in Kathmandu and was a bestseller. His 9th book, the most recent one, is called The Open Road, Global Travels with the 14th Dalai Lama. Pico was born in England, in Oxford, of Indian parents. He grew up in California, England. He lives now in Japan and Santa Barbara. He's a real citizen of the world. He got a King's Scholarship to attend Eton in England, and then went on to Oxford, where he did a double major, and when he graduated, he was acknowledged as having the highest marks in the university, which some of us feel was just showing off. After that, he went to Harvard, where he got his second master's degree in literature and writing, and taught there for 2 years before leaving to write for Time magazine. And that's when I first met Pico. It was in a hot tub at Esalen, and we were attending a week-long session with Joseph Campbell, and he was chatting with me about he was covering it for Time, and he was chatting with me about the workshop, and I said, you know, when I tell my friends in New York that I'm going to Esalen to hang out with an 80-year-old man and listen to myths and stories all day, they kind of roll their eyes and say, uh-huh. And that was the quote that Pico put in his article in Time magazine, and we've been friends ever since. His interest in the Dalai Lama started actually when he was 2 years old. One of his earliest memories was listening to the BBC broadcasts about the young Dalai Lama trying to escape from Tibet and finally getting into India. And his father, who was a Gandhi expert, was so moved about the Dalai Lama coming into India that within a year of his coming into exile, he went to India to meet him, and he told the Dalai Lama about his then 3-year-old son's interest. And the Dalai Lama went and got a picture of himself at age 3 to give to Pico's father, to give to Pico, which he cherished for years. He spent 34 years covering having a conversation with the Dalai Lama, which has gone into his book, and I highly recommend it. This symposium. Apparently, there's somebody else who wants to speak. So, without further ado, Pico Iyer.
What did it? Old friend. Thank you. Okay. Oh.
Well, thank you so much, Mickey, for your introduction, and thank you all for coming out on this spring morning that so many of us have been waiting for such a long time. And I think you all know how deeply honored and just delighted we are to have in our company really two of the globe's greatest champions of conscience, of dialogue, of peace, and I think most important, of really rigorous practical work for change in the very, very real world. All of you know that His Holiness won the Nobel Prize for Peace 20 years ago in 1989, and among many, many other awards was given the Congressional Gold Medal 2.5 years ago. And I think all of you know that for decades he has really been a spiritual friend and counselor to the planet, whom I think just about everybody looks to for sustenance and for inspiration, regardless of her race or her religion. For 50 years, he's been tirelessly protecting the people of Tibet, bringing the global world into Tibet, bringing Tibet into the global world. But I think those of us who are lucky enough to spend time with him feel that one of the great things he offers all of us is his humanness and the way he reflects back to us our human potential. When he goes to the White House, he will shake the hand of every last waiter and bodyguard, as well as of our president, really just to show that we're all the same. When he has a free day on his schedule, he won't spend it cultivating power brokers or talking to the media. He'll go to a small school because he knows that those children are the ones who are practically constructing our future of 20, 30 years from now. I've been lucky enough, as I think you heard, to know His Holiness for 35 years, since I was a teenager myself. And when I travel across Japan with him, as I do every year, I'm constantly amazed at how just seeing how His Holiness moves through the world sheds light on my life and on things that I could do better.